Once a cop, let it knock, yeah. For one thing, we should celebrate redemption instead of condemning it. Corey Pegues, what up? Talk your truth, bruh. Check it out. Once a cop.
From about 1525 to 1866, 12.5 million Africans were taken from their homeland and forcibly shipped across the Atlantic. A journey that almost 2 million of them wouldn't survive.
Black history is more than a moment. It's a movement. It's the lessons passed down, the battles fought, and the progress still unfolding. This Black History Month, Corey's Corner, honors the legacy by spotlighting today's Black leaders, those carrying the torch forward. Right conversations that matter. Honest dialogue. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. Because history didn't stop with our ancestors. It continues with us. Check out Corey's Corner today. Black voices at the right time.
Pull up a seat. You're now in Corey's Corner, where right conversations matter. I'm your host, Corey Pegues, and I always keep it right, not real. Today on Corey's Corner, we're joined by a leader who understands how power, policy, and people come together to create real impact. Robert E. Cornegy Jr. is the founder and principal of 610 Collective, a full-service MWBE certified consulting firm working at the intersection of social equity, cannabis, affordable housing, healthcare equity, real estate development, and small business growth. He's also part owner of the travel agency, a New York-based cannabis dispensary focused on equity and access. Before entering the private sector, Robert served 2 impactful terms on the New York City Council, where he chaired key committees on housing, small business, and MWBEs, served on the budget negotiating team, and earned a reputation as a common-sense Democrat, willing to work across the aisle to get things done. From a Final Four run with St. John's University to a decade of professional basketball abroad, to teaching tomorrow's leaders at MIT, NYU, and Brooklyn College, Robert brings a rare mix of discipline, strategy, and vision. Today we're talking leadership, equity, and what it really takes to navigate government and create lasting change. Welcome to Corey's Corner.
Thank you for having me, man.
Been waiting for you to come on, man. This episode of Corey's Corner is sponsored by Vodka, that smooth mix of vodka and tequila. It's taking the city by storm. Sip different. Much respect to Corrupt Mob MC, one of the strongest motorcycle clubs out here representing brotherhood, community, and real loyalty. We appreciate the support and salute the entire Corrupt Mob's family. Respect the mob. Let's get into it. You grew up in New York. What was your neighborhood like, and how did it shape who you are today?
It's funny you lead with that because we come from the same place. I don't know how long it's going to take before we get to the reality of it. But, you know, it's a traditional middle class, Black neighborhood where family was incredibly important, the push for education. But at the same time, there was a flip side in that community where, you know, there was an underside where, you know, there was crime, but I like to think about the family dynamics that was there. A lot of 2-parent households, a lot of people, like my family moved from Brooklyn here when Brooklyn was getting really bad. They came to what was considered the suburbs at the time. Yes. So, you know, really good, solid, religious, you know, home-based community. We didn't have housing developments where I was, but you had some people who, you know, were living under the poverty level as well, though. So it was a mix, like our neighborhoods usually are. In our neighborhoods, usually you live next to the drug dealer, the pastor, the record exec. All of y'all live on the same block because coming up in that time, you were relegated to certain neighborhoods. You couldn't live anywhere in the city, and a lot of people don't know that because now you could pretty much go wherever you want. Right. But when I was coming up, there were parts of Brooklyn that were relegated for Black folks. There was parts of Queens for sure that was all Black families. It's funny because people that left Brooklyn and the Bronx that came to Queens act like they arrived and found the same circumstances to some degree here just in houses.
Where did you fall among your siblings, and how did growing up in a large family influence your leadership and sense of responsibility?
So it's funny because we talk about that in my house a lot, that I was a middle child. So I was always, putting out fires, and so that really was the basis for me being able to go into politics. I was politicking my household, making sure everybody was straight, speaking for my younger sisters, all of that kind of stuff. Really was what led me to be able to do what I'm doing.
Wow. Where did you attend high school? Of course, I know we went to the same high school. And at that stage in your life, did you already see a path towards sports, public service, or leadership?
Yeah, so the funny story is, in junior high school, I went to 192, the Deuce, and I was in the band. I was in jazz band. I played the baritone sax. When I got to Jackson,
that's the baritone
the
sax.
baritone, the big sax.
The big sax, yeah.
So I remember walking down the hallway my freshman year on my way to band class, and Coach Granby coming out the gym like, "Man, where you going?" That was my last day in band class. When he saw me, like he was like, "Yo, you could get a scholarship,
right,
to go to college playing basketball," and that's how I got hooked really on it. I was sold on it. Like I played in the park and all of that kind of stuff, but I never took it serious because we came from a family of musicians. That's another thing. A lot of musicians are from Queens, from Addersley Park, from Hollis, from Jamaica. Yeah. A lot of the top musicians were out here, so my family was a music family. And we thought for sure I was going to be in some band or something somewhere. But Coach Granby put a stop to that dream.
Speaking of Coach Granby, so you have to understand that Robert Cornegy went to Andrew Jackson High School in Queens, New York. We've actually had Eric Sanders that graduated from Andrew Jackson on Corey's Corner. Dr. Crystal Bonds graduated from Andrew Jackson. Yours truly graduated from Andrew Jackson. LL Cool J, Jam Master J. I was talking to some people the other day. And Lover. And these people said, last night I was at a cigar lounge with some fellas, and they was like, "Oh, you went to Andrew Jackson, one of the worst schools." And because my thing, when they say that, I say, well, let's rattle off names.
100%.
Because we say Francis Lewis High School. Where you going? Would you say Fred Burton? That's it. What you got after that?
No, Fred Burton went to Cardozo.
I thought
Anthony Mason went to Fred. No, Anthony Mason went to Springfield.
He went to Springfield.
Yeah. The list from Jackson is crazy.
Hype Williams. It's insane.
I forget which one. Either Salt or Pepper went to Jackson.
One of the greatest white basketball players, the Cools.
Absolutely, Bob Cousy, number one on the Hall of Fame list.
One of the Hall of Fame
list. So Andrew Jackson produced through every decade, not just in one decade, not during the Cools era.
Right.
Through every decade, produced some of the most talented producers and musicians and athletes.
That's right. It was bad. Oh yeah, it was a lot of gunplay.
Yeah,
but if
100%,
you can navigate through the gunplay, we actually.
But back to our neighborhoods, though, there was two kind of folks that came out of our neighborhoods. Really, three: musicians, sports figures, and some of the highest drug dealers came from that area too. So it was a funny kind of mix.
Yeah.
But if you were an athlete, some of that they let you slide on. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have as many problems because they knew
because everybody was like, "Yo, Tree," which we affectionately called him Tree because he was the biggest guy in the school. Tree, you got to make it. Like, yo, get off the block. I already know how I was.
100%. And respectfully, I used to love CeeLo. And back in those days, up on Hollis Avenue, they used to run me off of Hollis Avenue. Like, you ain't got no business being here. Get out of here. And I'd be like, nah, I like this. Nah, get out of here.
You got a future, man. You've been described as someone who stands head and shoulders above the rest, literally and figuratively. How did your upbringing in early life shape your sense of leadership and responsibility?
So I learned this term in my household. It's called servant leadership because my father was a pastor.
Okay.
So my father was a pastor at Mount Calvary Baptist Church in Brooklyn. And I watched him sacrifice everything for his community, for his church, and for his community. And so I didn't really have a choice. Like I knew I had no business near the pulpit.
Right.
But I knew that I wanted to provide service to my community, right? So there were so many folks that we grew up with who either wound up smoking crack or situation. And I just was like, yo, this doesn't make any sense. And I just wanted to I felt like I had a really good life, man. I got to I got to play basketball in high school, in college, and then go overseas and play basketball. Like, that was a dream for me. I never grew up thinking I'd be able to make money doing that.
Right.
But when I left and came home, some of the people that I left were in the same position, both figuratively and literally, than I left them in. And I was like, yo, I got to do something, man. Like, I almost felt like I owe. Actually, I felt like I owed, because I had, I guess, what they call survivor's remorse, where a lot of people that I grew up with were either in prison, just coming home now, by the way.
Yeah.
Over the last decade.
You're right.
Or had gotten strung out on drugs, or that kind of thing. And here it was, I was just skipping through life, having a good old time and having the time of my life. I really felt like I owed, and I wanted to provide some kind of service to my community. And then I remembered, like, watching my father really sacrifice, right? Because my father was in a time when it wasn't mega pastors. So he had a job.
Yes.
And then still had to serve. My father was he worked at Drake's Bakery. Those of us who know Drake's Bakery. And then he would have to serve, his congregation. So I came from a family that committed themselves to something other than themselves.
Right.
And it seemed inevitable that was going to happen for me. I just knew that I had no business in the pulpit.
Now, as a proud father of 7, how has fatherhood influenced the way you approach public service, business, and community building?
Man, everything that I've ever put forward, every piece of legislation, has been informed by what happens at my dinner table and at the kitchen table. So I would have discussions with my kids about what was happening in their lives, and I would be informed enough to go in and make decisions for not only the generation I was living in, but the future generation, because I was listening to my kids.
Right.
And, so I was one of them kind of fathers where, I grew up under a father who is like, do as I tell you to do. Which worked for me, because I wouldn't be where I am if he wasn't that type of person during that time. But the kids are different now, so I had to listen to them, actually listen and observe what was going on. I got a few
of those in my house.
100%. So it was my house. I joke all the time. That's where I learned democracy. I ain't learned democracy at the city council. I learned democracy in my home.
Yeah.
And people who I served for were better off by the conversations that were formed at my dinner table.
You're a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. What role has brotherhood and collective accountability played in your personal and professional journey?
So the process that I had to go through to become an Omega man now, right? When you were growing up, you was just a Q dog, but now I'm an Omega man. The process is what actually helped me in my process of getting elected, right? The resilience, the steadfastness, all of those kinds of things. And being able to call on, like you said, brotherhood, right? A lot of men don't have other men that they could call on in tough circumstances and tough situations, right? So that really helped me later on in life, pledging decades ago. But now,
so you pledged in college, or
I pledged. I don't know if that's a story I can tell on film here, but I was what you call a renegade in undergrad, meaning that my process was never completed in undergrad. Because some things happened and we wasn't able to complete. The Brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the graduate chapter, were gracious enough to extend me the courtesy.
Give you a second chance.
to bring me through. But that was still 20 years ago.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, listen, this is not on here, but I wouldn't be good after this interview if I don't ask you, how was it playing? You played for 2 legendary coaches. You played Chuck Granby. Andrew Jackson is one of the legendary coaches in high school basketball.
Absolutely.
In New York City. I think he's top 3 with wins, or 5.
100%. He was number 1 until he passed, and then Clario
took over. We got to bring the Clario on the show.
100%. He's a good dude.
Want to bring him on.
Good dude.
And you played for legendary Lou Carnesecca.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's crazy. How was it playing for these legendary coaches?
So my father passed when I was 13, and Chuck, Coach Granby, not only took over the role of coaching, but he took over the role of mentoring and stepped in as a surrogate father.
Right.
So I always owe him. Every time I see Robin was like, his daughter was like my sister.
Yes.
Because I spent so much time at their house in Baldwin, and my mother allowed that.
I saw you at the street naming ceremony.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So he really stepped in and did what coaches were supposed to do. Like we got some fugazi coaches these days
today,
but no, his level of mentorship and filling in the gaps for me to become a not a great basketball player, but to become a great man was his mission. And it was the same with Coach Cornegy.
Why did you choose St. John's? Because you probably had 50 scholarships around the country.
I did. I chose St. John's because I really was going to go to Temple to play for Coach Chaney.
Coach Chaney, okay.
Legendary black coach, passed away, but he was the man. But my mother got sick. And I didn't want to be far from my mother.
Right.
And that's right up the hill.
It's right up the hill.
Right up the hill. So I stayed really so that I could be in close proximity to my mother if she needed anything.
Wow. Yeah, 2 legendary coaches he played for. Yeah. We have this segment on Corey's Corner called Spitfire Round. I ask you 10 rapid-fire questions. You answer yes or no, or you give me one-word answers. It's not like Drink Champs. We ain't drinking, okay? But we're going to just get through these questions, okay? Neighborhood that raised you, one word to describe it.
Amazing.
Okay. First job you ever had?
Favorite shoe store.
Wow. Coach, teacher, or mentor who changed your life?
All of the above.
Harder pressure, professional sports or political negotiations?
Political negotiations all day.
Yeah, I knew he was going to say that. One policy issue you believe leaders overcomplicate?
Affordable housing.
Man, damn it, you hear? You listening? A misconception people have about equity programs.
So I got a one-word answer for that.
Go ahead.
That black people are the largest consumers of equity programs. That ain't true. That's not true at all. Those social equity programs that were they weren't designed for black folks. And if you look across the country, people who are receiving the majority and the lion's share of those benefits aren't black people.
That's a fact. Best leadership advice you ever received?
That I can give a one-word answer. Listen more. Or listen.
One habit that keeps you grounded?
Prayer.
Nice. If you weren't in policy or consulting, what would you be doing today? Too old for basketball, so what would you be doing?
Wasn't even in my mind.
Finance. Legacy in one sentence. How do you want to be remembered?
As somebody who cared enough to be committed and who was somebody who was present for his community. So and I say that because there's 2 kinds of people, those people who are here and those people who are present. People don't realize that just showing up is not the answer. So you got to be present to the situation of people. And I like to think that my claim to fame is I was always present. I wasn't there. There's a famous pastor who I won't name in Brooklyn who says to me all the time, man, I'm everywhere you are. And I'm like, yeah, but you ain't present.
Wow.
That's what he hang his hat on, man. I must be in the right place if you here.
Right.
No, I'm not here. I'm present.
Okay.
So people don't invite me because they like my aura or my personality. They know that I'm gonna come and have a solution for whatever they're suffering through, whether it's a gun violence situation, whatever the situation is, we come in with answers and solutions. So I'm not just here. So I would like to think that my legacy is of somebody who was always present.
Dope. Thank you for participating in the Spitfire Round.
This is Chris Alexander. Check out Corey's Corner on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Before we jump back in, I want to take a second to talk about something close to my heart, about my award-winning book, Once a Cop, The Street, the Law, 2 Worlds, 1 Man. It's a book about a misguided young kid that made some really bad choices but ended up changing his life to become the person that I am today. And it's also got turned into a feature documentary that's on Hulu and Apple TV. So if you get an opportunity, check it out. Thank you for the people who support it and the people that didn't watch or read it yet. Thank you. And if you do, hit me up on Corey's Corner @gmail.com and let me know what you think. Now, word from our sponsors.
This is not your average vodka. This is Vodkila, a decade of cultured excellence. The best of both worlds, the true taste of victory. A delicious dyad spirit, the world's finest blend of vodka and tequila. Vodkila, the perfect blend. From rooftop parties to quiet moments with friends, Vodkila brings the flavor, the fire, and the unforgettable. So pour it, share it, live it. Vodkila. Visit vodkila.net and order yours today.
During your 2 terms on New York City Council, you chaired major committees from housing, small business to MWBEs. Which role most challenged you and why?
I'm gonna say, actually, being on the budget negotiation team challenged me the most, because what people don't realize is there's a responsibility on the budget negotiation team where you have to come up with revenue producing ideas. You don't get to just sit there and chop up the budget.
Okay.
There is an expectation, and it seemed like the class that I was in, nobody knew that. So we were given, like, I'll give you a good example. You know this, and I hope it don't sound crazy. I'm a member of the only black yacht club in the city.
And you don't move
At
the
Patrick.
boat from
It-
what I
it been a-
understand.
it
I
been
was with Marvin Lewis 2 nights ago.
Me too. Yeah. I got to get back to that. But I proposed a bill to add. So everybody in the council has a special interest that they want funded.
Right.
The Jews want the Holocaust Museum.
Right.
Black people want the culture and arts. Like, everybody got something that they want funded.
Right.
The administration don't print money in the basement.
Right.
So where does that money come from? Like, when the budget increases, where does it come from? There's an expectation that if you're on the budget negotiation team, you're going to come up with revenue generating ideas to create more money so that you could, give out more money.
Right.
So I remember my first time there, I went back to my team and I was like, yo, let's come up with some revenue generating ideas. And they were like, ooh, that's taxes. That's that's how money is generated in the city. People gonna hate you if you do that. I was like, that's my responsibility. Like, it's only 11 of us on the budget negotiation team. We're supposed to all come with something so that we could then cut that up. So I had to make the unpopular decision to say, I know how to generate some revenue. We're gonna add like $100 tax on every foot of your boat. Right? So I said, this is good. Marvin and them are going to kill me.
Right.
But, that's a luxury.
Right.
To own a boat is a luxury. Man, I went there. The other 10 members in a closed room with the speaker booed me. I was like, yo, you can't boo. You can't boo your colleague, bro. Right. And I'm the only one this affects. Don't nobody else in here got a boat. Why do y'all care? Because they just so opposed to taxes. Like, that's not even a legit, like, being a part of that team has a huge responsibility, not just for you to look. Everybody thought you look at the budget and let's see how we carve this up. Right. So that my community could get, like, the joke was when I went to budget negotiation meetings, I put on a adult depends, so I ain't leaving the table. I'm not going to the bathroom so that y'all could, you know what I mean? Because they don't break session when I got to use the bathroom. Right. They're gonna keep on negotiating. Right. So I understood that, but I also said I read the other part of the page, which said you have to come. You're responsible for coming with some ideas that will generate revenue, so that we can make some more money, so that you could give to the interest of your choice, whatever that might be. So, to me, that was the most impactful, because that's really how the city is run. And just another note on the budget. At that time, I was the chair of small business. And I was taught that, and all of us should know, that if you really want to know what somebody's priorities are, look at their budget. Right? So if I say to you, yo, I really want to buy this house, but my budget shows that I bought Gucci boots, and I bought, then I'm not true to my budget. Right. So with that in mind, I remember looking at the budget going, yo, there's nothing in here to support small businesses. But everybody in the council, all 51 members, say that small businesses are the backbone of the community. But there's nothing in the budget that reflects helping small businesses. Right. So I went to the speaker and I was like, yo, I'm the chair of small business. I really need your help on this. Like, we have to create a line where we can extend some help. And this was like during Sandy or something when businesses was really hurting.
Right.
And they were like, well, that's not how this really goes and whatever. And so I got a real crash course in the budget and what it really does and who at the table. Like I was really surprised at people at the table that didn't fight at all. I won't say it on your podcast, but there's people who just was there. I guess that look good on your resume. So you're not doing none of the work of the budget negotiating team. You're not generating or creating any revenue. You're not looking at the budget as it stands and trying to find ways to, yes, make sure your community is taken care of for sure. But where do you think that money is going to come from? They don't print it in the basement.
You were consistently ranked, which I didn't know, in the top percentile for substantive legislation. What does effective legislation mean to you beyond just passing a bill?
So it's also the follow-up on the bill. I'll give you a good example. A lot of people don't know this, but there are two kind of individuals on Rikers Island or in city jails. There's detainees and there's sentenced individuals. Before a bill that I passed, if you were a detainee, you didn't have access to services. And you could be there for 3 years with no access to services. You only get access to services once you've been sentenced, and now you're a ward of the city, getting ready to go upstate, if their time says that. So those people could go to the library, could get GED, but if you just sitting there, you literally just sitting there. And so the young man, the bill came out of the young man, Khalif Browder, who wound up killing himself after he had been tormented on Rikers Island for 18 or 22 months, whatever it was, with no services. So my bill allowed, if you were there 10 days, right now today, if you're there 10 days or more, you can demand services. You can demand mental health services. You can demand, but before that, you just awarded, you just a detainee, so you just sitting there. So to me, it's that kind of legislation that not only changes, like that'll be going on, and it should change how recidivism rates are. Because a person who sits there all that time is very much likely to come right back. Because while I was there for that 22 months, I lost my apartment. I lost my job.
My family.
And I probably lost my girl.
So
now I'm starting from scratch. The likelihood that I'll do something that'll bring me back is higher. So I was like, yo, why are y'all doing that? Like so that bill. So I think that's my idea of substantive legislation. And I did that in every sphere. So it wasn't just like, so white people couldn't just say, oh, you only helping ex-inmates and all of that. We had the first bill that was commercial tenants protection bill. Like, residential tenants have protections. You can't just get a residential tenant out.
Oh, I know that.
Right. That's a topic for a whole nother time.
That's a whole show.
But for commercial tenants, we had landlords like in Bed-Stuy. A landlord would realize that he could get quadruple the rent that he was getting because the neighborhood was changing. So you got a small mom and pop shop in there. One dude took the roof off. And just left the roof off. And the tenant had to move. And then he put it back on. But that's how they were getting people out, putting scaffolding up in front of your sign. So you're all of that kind of stuff. So our law said, if you do that, you could be prosecuted and you could be fined a certain amount. That law is still in effect. I actually ran into somebody somewhere and they said, you saved my business with that. Because this dude was trying to get me out. And we didn't know what to do. And then we found out that this law was in effect and we were able to sue him and get it done. So it's the follow-up on a law. Everybody want to create a law, but they never go back to the law. It's laws, and you know this as somebody who was in law enforcement, are only as good as the enforcement of the law. So imagine you out as an officer on the street, and you don't even know this law changed because things change so much. So you're not operating. So you have to go back sometime. We had to go to Rikers Island and be like, hey, that you got to give. You got to do that. And not being a jerk. But really working with, and just so you know, the corrections folks were so happy because now you got dudes being active. So they was like, and
they're not frustrated.
And now their housing areas are calmer because it ain't just people sitting around. You can move around and you got stuff that you could do. So it wasn't you know, the corrections union was like, yo, Rob.
Right.
When they called me, I was like, oh, they're gonna be beefing now. They got more work to do. They was like, yo, thank you. Because now we can put so to me, it's legislation and then it's the enforcement of the legislation. And you gotta follow up. Some people just do it for the sake of doing it.
Just to put their name on it.
And that's why the title that says that I was in the top 10 percentile of substantive legislation. Because some legislation just be for the sake of legislation.
Right.
I said no to so many bills. They had tried to do a bill that said police officers couldn't park on the sidewalk by their precinct.
Right.
So I said, so you want an officer to go to work just like you and drive around for an hour trying to find a parking space so he could get to work. I said, that's stupid, man. If he got a catty corner park on the curb, I'm not doing that. So there was a lot of bills that I didn't put my name on because they just didn't make sense. I know you're trying to make your bones in the council. I know you think that's fly, but the very people that you expect to service you, you're going to inconvenience them?
Right. Well, you've been known as a common sense Democrat, known for working across the aisle. In today's polarized climate, what does real bipartisan leadership require? Because it's freaking insane, especially in that place called Washington, D.C.
Yes, sir.
But I'm a firm believer that all politics is local. Like Trump can't affect me. That light that's out, you know, I live in Long Island. I know the mayor. I need to call the mayor's office. Boom. But Dems and Republicans can't get it together. What we gonna do, Rob?
So let me just tell you this. So Joe Borelli, who's a Republican.
Yes, he just got another job at the UN now.
Who was Trump's delegate. They told me don't work with him. My colleagues was like, don't work with Joe Borelli. He's Trump. He's Trump. Me and Joe Borelli produced together. He was I think he was the union chair, and I was the chair of housing and buildings. And we created a law because what people were doing, there were mad firefighters. I think he was the union. Anyway, there was mad firefighters who were dying because people were changing the schematics of buildings and not sending it down to the buildings department. So imagine you down here, you add another wall, whatever. So when a firefighter goes on a scene, he has the architect's drawing, and he know where to go.
You got the blueprints.
But they making all kind of changes. Just, you know, they saying that it's not structural. So our law said, yo, you make any changes for the safety of somebody rushing into a burning building, you got to report that. If you don't, you'll be fined.
Right.
They told me, even when we were doing it together, me and Joe was doing it together. Joe from Staten Island.
Right, I know.
So they was like, yo, you can't work with Joe. I went to Staten Island. I saw his kids. Me and Joe had the same concerns. What kind of education system was going to be available to his children?
Right.
Whether they're going to be safe in the community. What church he going to worship at.
Right.
Like, I was like, damn, that sound pretty much like how I feel. Wait a second. We got the same kind of ideas. And then the safety of officers, whether it's firefighters, police officers, correction officers, was something that we had in common. I was like, wait. And it dawned on me that we had way more in common. Now, I'm not saying everybody ain't like that, because some people are racist. I'm not saying everybody's not like that. But you have a responsibility to the people that you serve and to the city that you serve to try to work that out.
Right.
That if I would have listened to my colleague, that bill would have never came about, just for the sake of don't work with Joe Borelli or don't work with a Republican.
That's crazy, because
that's the example that's a literal example I could give you of a good bill that's going to save lives that they told me not to do.
Yeah, they just can't get it together now, man. Speaking of that, let me get your thoughts off record again. Let's get your thoughts on Minnesota. The woman that was shot by ICE.
I've watched that on several times. Now, I don't know police procedure, but
you don't need to be a cop to figure that video out.
100%. I'm like, it didn't seem to present any imminent danger. Now, I understand from an officer's perspective, if your life is in danger, nah. First of all, his weapon was already drawn. You know what I'm saying? And that seems to me like you was already aggressive about this. And then, you know, some people have implicit biases. And I think based on how she looked, there's some people in this world that have a bias against that type of person.
Right. Well, remember, just before the shooting, her wife, which is gay, you know, it's funny. Like 2 or 3 people text me and was like, "I think he shot her because she was gay." And I had to look at this video a few times, and you see her wife saying, you know, talking to them aggressively to them, was like, "Yeah, you need to get your weight up, whatever."
She was talking crazy.
Yeah, she was talking crazy, but talking crazy doesn't
That's
mean
100%.
that my wife should get killed
100%.
or my husband, however they identify each other. But this is a sad sort of
It's a
set of
so
circumstances.
for me, it's never the actual incident, it's the responses to the incident that concern me. Because I can imagine in a crisis situation, maybe I don't act as appropriately as I should, the heat of the moment or whatever. The people who are now raising funds for this dude, like, I'm like, yo, this, you sending the wrong message. And I'm not saying you can't support who you want to support, but the outright and blatant disregard for her life, to me, is crazy.
It is. It's insane, but that's what we're dealing with, and that's why I've invested for the next 3 years. I got a bunch of popcorn, and I'm just gonna sit back and eat it and watch this craziness that's going on. You're part owner of the travel agency and cannabis dispensary, and your firm focuses on social equity cannabis.
Yes.
How do we ensure this emerging industry truly benefits communities that were harmed most, other than having people that was formerly incarcerated go to the top of the line?
Damn, I was hoping that you wouldn't ask me this question because
I have to, because we had Chris Alexander on here too.
I don't know what Chris said, but the reality is I told them from day one that, one, this program is unconstitutional and it's anti-capitalist. And I'm going to tell you why. And I said this to all the powers that be.
Okay.
One, it's unconstitutional because you can't prioritize one demographic over another in an emerging market. Now, I know they've done it before. I'm not saying that they haven't done it.
Yes, they did it.
But what we found was when we did it, when this program was instituted, there were so many stops and starts in a program because there was a lawsuit every week. Gay people were suing why we ain't first. Veterans were suing why we ain't first.
Yeah, I'm a veteran. I'm like, yo, what's up?
100%.
I want in.
100%. So I knew from a constitutionality standpoint, it wasn't going to hold water. And it's anti-capitalist because here's the funny thing. They only relegated communities of color to one place on the vertical supply chain. You can't win if you don't control the vertical supply chain.
Right.
So if Rob Cornegy, who's known as somebody who has stake in dispensaries, I can't be in growth and cultivation. I can't be in transportation. I can't be and this is the only state where that is.
And you only could just be in one part of it?
One part of it. Now I know I can't win. So not that I can't win. I can't change the trajectory of my community and build and transfer wealth without controlling the vertical supply chain. Look at let's just be honest. Look at Asians, primarily Koreans, and the hair industry.
So they control the whole.
They control it because they control from cutting people's hair off.
Yeah.
To transporting it here, to packaging it, to whatever. And so they run the joint. So even if I wanted to, as a black person, get involved in that, I can't win because the margins, they control the margins. They do everything in such grand scale that I'm going to pay 3 to 4 cents for a pack of hair, 3 to 4 cents, or probably more, a pack of hair to sell in my store if I try to do it on my own.
Right.
And unless I have a loyal following, I can't win at that. When we think about bodegas and supermarkets that are controlled by so many Hispanics, they control that vertical supply chain. People ask me all the time, why aren't there any black
candy stores,
black candy stores, black supermarkets?
That's what we grew up on, candy stores.
Right. You know why? Because you're going to pay 3 cents more for that gumball because you're not in that network.
Right.
And so just a good example. Around here, if there's 10 Hispanic bodegas, they all buy under the same umbrella, so they get a cheaper price.
Yes.
So you with yours on merit, you're not in that network, so you're going to pay the rate, and it's probably 4 cents more. Whether it's a can of peas, whether it's a can of corn, you're going to pay 4 cents more. Your customer ain't going to stand for that. They're going to come in and go, come on, Corey, I could just go up the block to see my man Jesus, and it's going to be cheaper. No disrespect to you, but we on hard times right now. That 4 cents is killing me. So you can't. So unless you control, and I got into cannabis because I said, finally our chance to control the vertical supply chain. They're not looking, they're not paying attention, and they was. They said, all right, Rob, you can get in this, but you can only get in as a dispensary owner. First of all, I don't care whether it's cannabis or widgets. If you're only selling from your store, that's a loss off top.
Right.
Off the rip. Like if this only place I could be, now I got to rely on what the price fluctuation is from growth and cultivation, how much it costs to truck it, and then by the time you get it, by the time I sell it, everybody done had their hand in my pocket.
Right.
And now I get to sell the cannabis. And what happens with cannabis is people ask me, yo, why you didn't get involved in cannabis in the hood? I said, because first of all, that's not how we access cannabis. And the taxes, regulations, and all of that. When we opened the first store on 13th and Broadway, my mans and them came through to support me. And my man pulled me to the side. He was like, yo, I love you to death and I hope you're successful, but I'm never buying a $44 pre-roll ever again.
Right.
I'm going back to farmers.
Right.
But I hope you win. So I don't think it was personally. Oh, and just so you know, 85% of the cannabis market, dispensaries and ancillary in the state of New York are underwater.
Wow.
85% of these dudes is dying. A slow death.
So who's taking them out? The pop-up shops?
The gray market, who don't pay no taxes and whatever, who's 3 doors down. So why would I?
Sometimes one door.
One door down. So why would I come to your store and pay $44 for a pre-roll when it's $12 next door? That doesn't make any sense.
Is it still in the streets?
And of course it's still in the streets. As a matter of fact, the Chinese restaurant is now selling weed.
Chinese restaurant?
Yo, I was in Brooklyn and my man said, let me show you something. I love you. Let me show you something. He took me to the Chinese food, fry my wings hard, chop them hard. And bought an ounce. He bought an ounce.
Bought an ounce. Wow.
So everybody's a part of that industry now. On the gray market. So it's like, so I don't know what Chris said, and I love Chris and I love Tremaine, I love all of them. But I was finding it hard to, they were telling me, yo, Rob, take it easy. We building this plane while we flying. I said, you could tell me that as a legislator, but you can't tell me that as a business owner.
Right.
I don't want to hear that as a legislator. I guess I got to rock with you. We got to figure out how to iron this out. But I got too much invested in this now.
Right. Exactly.
And you told me that we were going to be able to win. And I told you that this wasn't going to work, just for the record. I told you that this wasn't going to work because it's unconstitutional and it's anti-capitalist.
For the record, look in the camera, tell the people where they could support your dispensaries.
So we are, a travel agency, 13th and Broadway, down on State Street. And all you got to do is Google the travel agency. I'm grateful that we are not part of the 85%, but I will tell you that although it's still federally illegal, that's another thing. That's a problem.
Still federally.
Now Trump did declassify cannabis over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I saw that.
We're going to see what the impact is. Supposedly on the street, that's going to have a really positive impact because the amount of taxes that you pay on a schedule, that it was under is very high. On one store, we paid $12 million in taxes last year.
Wow.
So it's hard to meet those margins. I'm on 13th and Broadway. It's $1.7 million the lease fee.
Yeah. Yeah, Broadway. Yeah.
So
what mistakes do you see governments making when rolling out equity-based programs?
Because it can't. So here's what they should have done. They should have partnered. It should be an equity-based program because we've been so disproportionately negatively impacted by the war on drugs. But they should have partnered that with solid business people, a solid MWBE. So not requiring just because you had negative involvement with law enforcement that you get to the head of the line. We're going to partner you with somebody who has a solid history, a solid business history.
No, that makes sense.
That's what should have happened. So you partner them with a long-standing MWBE who's already doing business with the city, who follows the rules. Put them together, and it would have been a better match, I think.
Okay, for small businesses and MWBEs, MWBEs, can you explain to the audience what that is?
That's a program for men and women business enterprises. So I'm an MBE, so I'm a male, I'm Black, obviously.
Yes.
That program, and obviously those programs are under fire from DEI and all of that. But it was supposed to bring some level of equity to business.
Yes.
So the way the city exercised that was they would give 30% contracts to MWBEs. I saw that our boy came under fire for that. Recently too. But it was supposed to level the playing field to some degree because there was such a good old boys network,
right,
as it related to everything.
But listen, Corey Pegues Enterprise is an MWBE, and I've getting contracts speaking at schools, and some of the principals told me straight up. This one principal told me when she took over her school, every speaker was white. The one who did the pictures, the school pictures, the one who did the caps and gowns, everything. She came in and was like, "Yeah, we got it. This is insane. This is in Brownsville."
That's a fact.
Every single contractor was white for years, and so she tried to bring a couple in, and they was like, "Oh no, Miss Jones, we don't. No, they've been here for 10 years." She was like, "No, we gotta mix this up. Let me
tell you my story of pissing off the DOE. So I had a bill that said you had to put alarms on school doors, right? Because for so long there was it was just the security officers at the front desk.
Right.
But me and you, we went out the side door to get a ham and cheese during the time, put a book in the door, and came back.
Right.
But when schools were under fire, Columbine and all of that, and people were breaking in. What happened was this young kid, Avante Aquendo, had autism and he escaped from a school and drowned in a pool very close by, and the school didn't even know he was gone because he went out the side door. So they, I put my bill in. It was under De Blasio, and they were like, "Yo, that's going to be crazy expensive. It's probably less expensive just to pay the lawsuits of the small number of kids that elope and die."
That's freaking crazy.
I'm telling you. So I said, you know what? Forget that. Forget Avante Aquendo. I'm going to tell the city that you've left 1.5 million children unprotected and that people can come in the side door and assassinate somebody. They was like, hold on. Don't say that. Don't say that. So they said, all right, we'll give you the bill. I said, yo, all right. Associated with the bill, it cost $6 million to put those alarms on school doors. And we was all ready to go and have the press conference. I said, yeah, but I want an MWBE company to do it. They were like, come on, man, you can't have everything. They're serious. You can't have everything. Why not?
Right.
Why can't I have everything? The way the contracts work is only MWBEs get, I think at that time it was $3 million and less.
Right.
If you were MWBE, they wasn't letting us get the big contract.
Right.
I was like, why can't I have that? I had to relent on that so I could get the bill passed to make kids safe. And they was like, let us have this. And I was like, wow, bro.
Wow.
Like, seriously. I can't have everything. A MWBE should have been able to do that installation. Now I understood that there was no MWBE company that would have the alarms.
Right.
Right? Because those are big companies. So let them get that. Just the installation.
Just give them the installation.
Give them the installation.
Right. Yeah, we getting politics 101 behind the scenes right here on Corey's Corner.
Wait, but what I did forget to tell you was you asked me about equity and in social programs, like who's getting all the money, and I responded to you by telling you it ain't black people. Do you know who the #1 consumer of cannabis and cannabis-related products is?
Who?
Middle-aged white women.
Wow.
You know why I know that? Because my stores are all located where there's middle-aged white women coming in with Lululemon yoga pants on, spending dead ass. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny. And so people ask me, like, yo, why you not in the hood? Because they don't spend in the hood. My man's in them I just told you, you're not spending $44 for a pre-roll. And I don't want to, the lights in my store look like this. You coming in there to buy weed, even though it's legal.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be under these kind of lights. Right. But it looks like, we made it look like an Apple store.
Right.
For the demographic that we want to serve. So just so people know, the #1 consumer of cannabis and cannabis-related products, gummies, tinctures, all of that is middle-aged white women. They're the same middle-aged white women that for so many years, after they drop their kids off at school, would have 2 glasses of wine with their girlfriend.
Wow.
It's the same. It's the same. So it ain't. So we're not even the largest consumers of weed.
Yeah.
It's $1 billion industry. You think we spending $1 billion?
No.
No. You first of all, you texting your man to come by on his bike,
right,
and drop it off, or you going somewhere else. I grew up going to Branson. I grew up, you know what I'm saying, all of that. So we don't do that. It's so the fact that they would give us all the stigma around it, and we're not even the number one consumer.
That's crazy.
So that's for another time.
All right, we wind it down. At 610 Collective, you got complex client strategies, of course, housing, healthcare, and real estate. What's the most common issue leaders misunderstand about navigating government?
It's a huge bureaucracy, and it's I feel like it's designed to be that way. And if you don't have, so there's a whole industry called expediters.
Mm-hmm.
They caking because that's the guy you call.
They're different than lobbyists?
Yes, an expediter is somebody that you call to get your permit because you can't actually get a permit because you don't have time to leave your business and stand online and all of that. So you get an expediter. Allegedly, an expediter has a relationship with the buildings department and he knows the folks down there and he can get your permit or whatever else you need lifted in very expediently. If you're not a major developer and or contractor or building owner, you don't have access to that because those dudes is expensive.
Right.
So, it's very difficult, again, for the little guy to survive when he's being hit with fines and fees, when he's being hit with taxes, when he's being hit with escalating energy costs. Like when that goes up, you can't go up on your rent. You should be able to just go up on your rent. When your energy costs go up, which happens regularly, you just stuck. You just stuck. You just sitting there like, yo, what am I supposed to do?
You emphasize personal and consistent communication with clients. You always making sure you're in the know with the clients and keeping them informed. Why is relationship building still the most undervalued currency in policy and consulting?
So it's funny because there's two kinds of ways. There's information, which is accessible through Google, and then there's intel. My company provides intel. Intel is different. Intel is what I gave y'all tonight. That you ain't gonna find that on Google. You're not gonna find on Google you might find that the number one consumer is whatever. But with the intel, you're able to move and structure your business in a way that's consistent enough for you to win. With information, everybody got information. But intel, and intel is not illegal. It ain't insider trading. It's just knowing actually the pressure points and where to go. And the only way you could do that is by having relationships. Like relationships are incredibly important. Up and down, you gotta have good relationships. So when I teach my classes, I tell my students, I could save your parents, tons of money if I just told you that the best thing you can get or the best way you can position yourself to be successful is to grow and cultivate sustainable relationships. So all of this you're gonna learn here and the degree you're gonna get means absolutely nothing. You're gonna be driving a cab with this degree.
Exactly.
If you haven't found a way to grow and cultivate your relationships.
Networking and politicking is the key to success.
I mean, we're a good example of that. We come from the same place, stayed in contact, touch points every now and then watched each other grow.
Right.
And then you're able to. But that's a relationship. We got a 40-year relationship.
Exactly.
I'm embarrassed to say we go back 40 years.
We owe that, but I can call you if I need something. You can call me, and that's
100%.
That's relationship.
That's relationship.
That's it. So,
but that's not taught today. Today you on your phone. Today you on everything is such individual basis. Nobody shaking hands no more. Nobody look you in your face and say, "Yo, I'm gonna see you later. I got you on this."
Somebody that's close to both of us. I'll never forget. I used to go to Rooney's barbershop and get my hair cut, and Floyd Flake would come in the barbershop and shake everybody's hand. So one day, I just got tired. Like, it's years. I said, Rev, why do you shake everybody's hand when you come in the barbershop? He said, you know why I shake everybody's hand? Because you never know the hand that you shake is going to be the hand that helps you.
That's a fact.
And anywhere I go, Tree, right now, wherever I go into a room, I'm shaking everybody. People be looking like I'm crazy, but they don't understand and know.
Right, but that separates you. That's one way to quickly separate you from everybody else by doing that.
Yeah.
Look at people in the eye, shaking their hand. You don't have to want nothing. You don't have to do nothing.
Just like,
but
hey,
see,
how you doing,
we
brother?
grew up understanding that you had to do that because on the street there were so many different kinds of people, and they would govern themselves accordingly by the way that you presented yourself. My kids always like, yo, dude stopped me on the street saying, you know, my father, whatever.
Yeah.
But I came from a family where dude stopped me on the street and was like, yo, you know I know your father. So right when I'm about to do something crazy, yo, hey, you know I know your father. So so we don't have that kind of thing that we passing down anymore. So those of us that have
a lot of
that,
these kids from the video games, like you said earlier, are introverts.
Absolutely.
They're not outgoing, and you know, I try to tell my sons, like, yo, you gotta, like, you in the room, like, let everybody know you in the room, like, yo, I'm here, like, yo, it's my name, I'm here, what's going on, everything good with you, how you doing, just keep it moving. But I'm shaking everybody's hand. I ain't going in no room without touching somebody. Yeah, everybody gets touched.
I'm glad I shook everybody's hand in here before you said that. I'm glad I walked around and shook everybody's hand.
Yeah. Last question. From city and state power list to global recognition and even a Guinness World Record. What was that? Your Guinness record. I remember it.
The world's tallest politician.
World's tallest politician. Okay. How do you define success at this stage of your life? And what legacy are you most focused on leaving? You kind of spoke on focus. Legacy.
I think that
and you guys still got a lot of life left in you.
Yeah. My relationships, though, man. I think that, like, so when I was growing my business, I had people come in and consult me on how to grow my business, and they were like, "Oh, you need to be able to prospect or whatever." And that's true. You need to be able to prospect to get new business, to find people who are interested in what your service is. When 2026 hit, the phone started ringing about people who knew me from doing something else. And asked me would I do something for them, word of mouth. So people don't realize that that's still a very important component to getting things done, right? My mother, old country lady, used to say, if you do right, right will follow you. So, you know what I mean? So to me, I think that my relationships and the way people have seen me and their perception of me has been like my greatest and biggest asset. It's like, I think it was, I forget which person said that it's not what you say or do, it's how you make people feel. If I could pass that message on, it ain't what you say or do, because it's rhetoric, talking and talking and talking. Right. It's actually how you make people feel. If you make them feel comfortable, if you make them feel safe, if you make them feel whatever, you'll always be successful. And then lastly, I was taught that if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah, that's a classic slogan.
But I believe that.
Well, before we wrap, is there anything you'd like to share that we haven't covered?
No, but I would like to say that, man, I appreciate you, man. I watched you. You know, people. You talked about the book, and you talked about, but I don't think people know what it took to get to that.
Yeah.
And being in a bureaucracy that you were in to rise to the top of that bureaucracy says a lot about what you had to overcome, where we come from, and all of that. And I don't want to leave your podcast without saying, yo, I respect and appreciate you. And if nobody else tell you, I'm proud of you.
I appreciate that, brother. Let the people know where they could find you.
I'm Robert Cornegy Jr. on Instagram, which is now my main source of information. On X, Robert Cornegy, and also on Facebook, Robert Cornegy. And if anybody forgets who I am and forget my name, you can always Google the Guinness Book of World Records, world tallest politician.
Unless Wembley goes into politics.
No. So actually, somebody won after me.
Yeah.
This dude from North Dakota, he was some tax assessor, some random role, and they were like, "Yo, you wanna fly out and have a child?" I was like, "Man, I ain't going through all of that, man. He could go ahead, he can have it." Yeah, so I had it for like 2 years, and then this dude, I don't even know if he's still in office or whatever.
That's funny.
That and a subway token, or that and a Metro card, and I can get on the train. So.
Can't get a token on Metro.
That's why I forgot what it even. What
I don't even know how to get on right now.
You know, when I grew up, just for the record, when I was growing up, I wanted to be in the Guinness Book of World so bad, like the longest spitball, like anything that was Guinness Book of World Records related made you somebody. My kids look at it like, yeah, whatever, man. Like,
That's funny.
Whatever, man.
I still got Guinness books in the house, old ones. So that's our conversation with Robert E. Cornegy Jr., a leader who shows us that real impact happens when strategy meets service and equity is backed by action. Rob, thank you for your insightful and powerful conversation, for the work you continue to do to advance equity, leadership, and opportunity across our communities. We truly appreciate you joining us on Corey's Corner.
Appreciate you.
My brother, appreciate
Yes,
you, man. For our listeners, if you found value in today's episode, make sure you follow, subscribe, support. This has been another episode of Corey's Corner. Until next time, keep grinding, keep pushing, and always remember, it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. I'm Corey Pegues, and I always keep it right, not real. Peace.
Special thanks to our executive producer, our engineers, and much respect to Corrupt Mob for making Corey's Corner
Once
possible.
a cop, let it knock, yeah. For one thing, we should celebrate redemption instead of condemning it. Corey Pegues, up, talking truth, bruh. Check it out. Once a cop, I used to hunt the block. Was caught up in the game.